Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here is your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, March 19th, 2026, and I am really excited to welcome today's guest on the People in Fundraising nonprofit podcast, Barron Cato. Good afternoon, Barron.
Good afternoon, Tim. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm so happy when you reached out to me. I'm a former APRA board member, and you're a current APRA board member, so it's always cool to connect with people who are on the APRA board. For those who aren't familiar with me, my job title, I'm the Director of Data Science and Analytics at the University of Washington Advancement Team.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I'm so looking forward to learning about the professional roles you have held at the University of Washington, as well as a little bit about who you are outside of work. And I appreciate that you've been good about going there with some of the questions I have sent to you ahead of time. For our people in the People in Fundraising audience that listen to the podcast, you won't be able to see this, but behind me is a very geeked out backdrop of my Star Wars stuff from my childhood and current life. And Barron is also a major Star Wars fan as well. So this interview will air on Monday, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. May the Force be with you as well. So Barron, if you could please take a few minutes at the beginning here and just tell our audience how you entered the fundraising profession.
Sure, would love to. So my journey actually started back when I was a junior in college at Washington State University. I had an acquaintance who reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, do you want a summer job?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he worked in the advancement services team for the WCU Foundation. He was on the IT side, but there was a position on the prospect research side for a student employee. So I applied for it, and I started working there in prospect research. This is going on, dating myself, 3 decades ago. So back in those days, the job was you look through physical newspapers and freshman magazines and highlighted, photocopied, and then filed in the physical files and managed those files. So that's those role that I had when I first started into this. And then I was fortunate enough that they gave me enough hours that I would work 20 hours a week during the school year, and then I would get 40 hours a week during the summers. I also doubled doing admin type work to be able to balance those work out. So I got to actually see, learn a little bit more about, at least on the advancement services side, how that worked. And then I was fortunate enough that since they liked my work there, a position opened up in the gift processing team. And so they approached me. He's like, "Hey, we really would like you to stay with us." So I said, "Sure, I'm about to graduate." So I applied, I got it, and I'm one of those rare people who's like, I graduated, I don't know, on Friday, Saturday, I can't remember what day I walked, and then that following Monday, I had a full-time job. Yeah. So I literally, fresh out of college, was in the space in the gift processing. And so I worked at the Washington State University Foundation for X amount of years, also became the managing gift coordinator. And then when it was time to move back to the western part of the state of Washington, for those who aren't familiar with our geography, I worked at an organization called Seattle Audubon. And I think that name has changed since then. But it was good to get an experience going from a university setting, right, to a smaller nonprofit, so where you got / database manager / prospect researcher / annual fund manager. So it was great experience to see what that was like, as well as gotten me into the fundraising side of things. So I was writing the fundraising appeals. I also got to go on major gift fundraising calls with the director of development, who was also the executive director. So I got to just experience. I didn't make the ask myself, but I got to experience what it was like going there. And then actually I went through a fundraising certification course as well. So I really became well-versed in the business. Before then, my next role was with the fundraising consulting firm in the area at the time. It was one of the leading ones in the Puget Sound Puget Sound in the state of Washington region. And it was a privilege and opportunity to work with them because then I learned from some of the best about how to interact with people, how to become a trusted advisor. It was actually a book that we had, it's required reading, and this is what we did, and this is how we did it. And I got to be mentored on how to do that while working on 6 to 7 capital campaigns at the same time. So understanding that side of the business and different personalities, all that good working. And then I then came back to the higher education by coming to the University of Washington, where I have now been for 20 years in various roles. I came back, started in prospect research, and then my prospect research role morphed. The analytics at University Advancement was founded and started by Jennifer McCormack. I want to always give her a shout out for the groundwork that she laid. And that was at the prospect development team at the time, but she started that, and then I moved over to join her, so we formed that first team. And so then my role switched from prospect research to just pure analytics in that space. And then from the analytics to more data science in terms of my role as it morphed the team. How we moved was from prospect development, then when Jen in her own professional growth became the senior director of annual philanthropy, then analytics moved with her over to that team. Okay. And then ultimately, when the organization decided that it wanted analytics to be its own actual separate unit, not part of something, its own separate unit, then it switched off. And then that is kind of how I'm in the role and the team I am in right now. And I could talk more about that. Yeah, if you'd like.
That's wonderful. What a diverse background of experience within the higher education advancement landscape at pivotal points in your career, Barron. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. It really does fuel my ability of how it is that I can translate data science into the business, because I do understand the business. Yeah. And that makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, for people like me and probably quite a number of people in our audience, we've, day one till present have been in prospect management, prospect research. And and then we have theoretical awareness of the other facets of fundraising, whereas you have the gift processing, the prospect research, the certification, like practical application in a lot of fundamental areas of development.
Yeah, I do. I've worked in just about. I mean, I haven't done planned giving, right? But from the annual fund to understanding major gift fundraising, exactly getting trained from capital campaigns specifically. Yeah, I've had, and obviously prospect research where I started everything. I look back on it, it's like, yeah, because I was fortunate to have all those opportunities presented for me. Yeah.
That's wonderful. And yeah, that's a great segue to your current role. You've been in it for about 5 years as the Director of Data Science and Analytics. In what significant ways has your role's scope changed in that time frame in conjunction with advances in data science and analytics, Barron?
Sure. Well, I'll talk about how the role has changed, and then I'll talk about the second half there because they're sort of connected and they're sort of not. So how my role has changed is that, as I mentioned before, when the organization decided that I wanted to start its own analytics team. So for those who aren't familiar with the University of Washington Advancement team, it's not just development for us, it's development, university marketing, as well as alumni association, all fall under advancement. Okay. And so they wanted the analytics team to support all 3 teams, not just the development side, which was the primary focus at the time. And so I was tasked to start that team from scratch. As I jokingly said to the senior VP who asked me, or the VP who asked me to do it, I was like, yeah, okay. So basically you said you gave me a blank room with just sheetrock for walls and said, all right, get this thing started. So, all right. And that's literally the truth. So, I mean, from infrastructure to the whole shebang, right? The hiring team and all the details about all, right? I had to deal with that. And that's what I did for the first couple of years. But the, with the caveat and understanding from the very beginning that we would be hiring a senior director, right, to run the whole thing, which I would have the opportunity to apply for, but there'd be a national search. So I knew that going into this, right? So there wasn't any, right, that's fine. I like starting and building things. Since you're on the APRA board, you probably hear about the things that I kind of say, hey, why don't we try this? Why don't we build that? Let's make it happen type thing, right? Yeah.
Right.
I probably have a little bit of a legacy there. That's just who I am. So it's like, sure, I'll build this. And then when it came time for the senior director position, obviously I could apply for it. There wasn't anything like that, but I did apply for it and I started to, but I was also going through my own personal journey, about what is my purpose? What is it that I want to do for me, just in general, right?
Sure.
Job is part of it, but everything. And it was during that time and during this that I realized understanding what they're going to be asking the senior director to do. So once a team is built, and now what's built for, there's visions and direction that they want to do with this thing. And the energy taken to that, if I did this, I wouldn't have the energy to do the other things that I want to be able to do.
Oh, good insight.
And so I withdrew from the interview process. I went to the first round, right? And then I withdrew. No, I wasn't rejected and anything like that. I made that epiphany. I withdrew and I explained why. And I said, because if we're going to hire a senior director, if I'm interviewing, then I can't have any say on who the senior director would be. That's that aspect, if I'm making this choice, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of going through it and just seeing what happens, type of things, like, no, I knew I didn't want this position. It wasn't for me, for my overall purpose, in life. And so I made that choice, and don't regret it. And the senior director who we've hired, oh my goodness, Alex Ichinoue is just fantastic. He was at the university before, a certain role, then he went to a Swedish promotional role, then he came back. And I can't say enough about how he is the right person for the job and where he's taken this team. So as a result, though, we were a team of 5. You don't need 2 managers for a team of 5, so we reworked, right? So I no longer needed to be a manager. And so, and the way it works at the University of Washington Advanced, it's not your title, it's the org chart, right? So we flattened things. So everyone reported up just directly to him. So the people who were reporting me before, we became equals. I mean, I'm considered, I'm respected as a senior in that, but hierarchically we're all the same on that, which is totally fine because our team was like a family. I mean, there was no weirdness or anything about that, no lack of respect, any of that, and I didn't mind it. So I mean, I won't lie. If you don't have to manage people, life isn't it becomes a little bit easier. But what that meant though is I needed to take on. So I'm not managing, but I needed to take on it. Excuse me. A data science portfolio again. We have a data science team and teams I work in collaboration with, but because the portfolio is so vast, I actually take that on. So I had to, obviously I've been for 2 years just admin, right? I'm building a team, and then I hired someone to do data science work. So I needed a high level, but I hadn't gotten into the weeds for 2 years. So I had to get back up to speed of getting back into the weeds and doing data science. It's like, oh my gosh. What are those hyperparameters? How did I do that again? I mean, things I've done. It wasn't like for those who aren't familiar with my background, because watch what those do is like, oh yeah, what's your degree? English business. Well, how the heck did you learn how to do data science? Well, put in the work, man. I learned the math that I needed to do. I learned the programming languages. I learned 3 of them, the coding, this high level stats, all that stuff, the machine learning, right? So got all of that. So it wasn't that I had to learn how to do data science. I just had to refresh myself on how to do it again. As I got into those projects. So that's kind of how my role then morphed. Still had on kind of some of the administrative stuff. Obviously, with the senior director, I didn't do those type of things anymore, but there's still administrative role that I had as with the director title. And now, currently, we've actually, because now going to the AI question, because our team is really driving AI driven in both integrating the work that we do, but also in creating AI related products for the organization. I've taken on more of a portfolio on the team, not managing wise, but product manager is the best way to put it. So my administrative side has grown.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Still got to do the data science side as well. So,
Yeah.
it's well, university, more responsibility, but it's all good. I enjoy it. So that's how my role has morphed. And then how AI has influenced it is yeah, for sure. And our team and the products that we create and do, not only into using it to make our work more efficient, but how we deliver AI related solutions in what we are delivering. Yeah.
Wonderful. What an amazing journey in just the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We talked, briefly before that last question about the vast practical experience you have, even in this snapshot of time, a segment of your overall career, opportunities to build up the team, but also recognizing that to be a whole person, there were some considerations of career advancement that you took really to heart and evaluating what you really wanted to do for your whole existence. And I think that's really admirable.
Yeah. Yeah. At that stage, because I mean, that decision was, gosh, it's about 3 years ago now that was made, so it's been 3 years since he's the senior director's been hired.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, fortunate enough that I've been long enough in my career that I could make that assessment,
Yeah,
right? Like, it's different maybe if I was in my 20s and 30s, at the time, as
sure.
opposed to being in my late 40s and like really making that assessment.
Yeah.
I know this focuses out fundraising and all that, but I am who I am, so I can't not be my authentic self. But it was like that evaluation of I no longer had my identity in my job. Does
Yes.
that make sense? So that's basically what it boiled down to. So I didn't feel the need that I need to have a certain title, a certain position, whatever it is to, no, it's like, how does my job fit into my overall life,
Yes.
regardless of my title, position, and what people think about me? So I was fortunate enough to be at that point in life where I could make that decision and feel comfortable with the way that I did. Yeah.
I so appreciate you talking about that, Barron, because I've experienced some of that as well in my career, my life. And I know others in our audience too, where you spend your 20s, 30s kind of chasing titles, for lack of a better term,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
better phrase, thinking that that's how your career ought to progress. And then you get to a point, and for me, I was 47 when I launched this podcast, um, because it had been something I had been considering doing for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So again, late 40s like you, and the outlets of what we want to do with our energy and time look different. But I really, really resonate with you mentioning that at this point in your life, having that ability to step back and say, I really want to think about this. I really want to maybe be a little more assertive about things that will bring fulfillment in the entire realm. And it's scary, but it's also liberating if you're able to do that. And I wonder if that resonates with you at all, those sentiments.
Yeah, it's hard because I want to make stay within the scope of this podcast, right? Because I
Yeah,
could I could
yeah.
I could riff about this, right? Um, but it really is. It's our personal journeys are so important for each individual, and when we get comfortable with who we are, not based off of external expectations. And I think that's the longest journey. And depending on different generations, I think we're both Gen Xers,
Yeah,
so we can only speak from our generations. Different generations have different things, but
yeah,
the external expectations put on us. So that's one of the things that drives us. Oh, I'm this because I'm supposed to be
yeah.
this. But I think that applies to all ages, right? Not just our generation.
Hmm.
But once I personally, just talk about myself, got legitimately free from that, and there was work that it took to be able to get free from that. It's the most empowering thing in my life, Tim. This is
Wonderful.
this best way to put it. It's the most empowering thing in my life. And now
Yes.
I'm in control of my life.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's beautifully put, Barron. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think I appreciate you wanting to stay within the parameters of the podcast. I think what you just shared is a nice segue to our third question. I often do a little bit of research, mostly what the guest puts on LinkedIn about who they are,
Mm-hmm.
their career, their volunteering, to help kind of round out these questions. And as I was putting together your questionnaire, I was really fascinated, and you've touched on it already with your English and your business degrees. Um, this incredible blend and balance of coupling those liberal arts and business studies, your data science responsibilities in your career. In addition to that, aspects of who you are outside of work, you're a certified intuition master practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
also a certified yoga body breath coach, and a martial artist. And first of all, that just is really incredibly interesting to me, and I want to give you some time to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
My question for you that you got ahead of time was how do your mastery and application of these important elements of who you are complement each other? So, for example, I can imagine someone might think, oh, well, left brain, right brain, that might be in conflict, but ways that you actually bring them into harmony and synthesize them.
Yeah. Great question. I mean, this is that second half, right? When I talked about that decision, is because I do have a breath coaching practice that I do outside. That's just my purpose and passion that I wanted to be able to do, and I wouldn't have the mental space to do that, right? If I was the senior director, just knowing myself, others might be able to, but just knowing myself, I wouldn't have. And so, yeah, for me, when you talk about the left brain and the right brain, and why it's not in conflict in my mind, it's balance, is because you just said it. Every single human being has a left brain and a right brain.
Mm.
So it's like saying, so let's take it out of the brain, let's put it into the hands. It's like saying, well, because I'm right-handed, my left hand's in conflict, so I guess I shouldn't use my left hand, right? Because I should only use my right hand. I mean, that seems silly to say, right? He's like, no, whatever, I'm going to use both my hands. I might be more dominant, but I'm going to use both my hands, right?
It's true.
Well, if we have two set, how many series shouldn't we not? Do we not? And the answer is actually we do. A lot of times, just because of a lot of things is emphasized, especially in Western culture, left brain dominant, and we got to be reasoning, we got to be logical, we got to do this and this and this. And you have anything that has any close intuition, then we should just discount it because it's not. How can you test it? So on and so forth. And so we discount it. But people still, we use it all the time. That's where the creativity comes from. And even if you're someone who's really scientific based and centered, you still use the right brain. Where do you think those random thoughts of ideas come from? Like, and then you test them, right? It comes from the right brain. So everyone is using both all the time. It's just what society has attributes to certain things, right? So that being said, but yeah, for me though, the balance and why I even got that Certified Intuition Master Practitioner is I'm a natural intuitive. So when people ask about, some people are more inclined to the right brain and left brain, so inclinations, yeah. So I'm more inclined to the right brain, right, the intuitive type of side than the left brain, which is actually counter to the thought processes of a data scientist, right? Traditional, stereotypical data scientist.
Yeah.
And that actually was what made my journey to be a data scientist a little bit more challenging because that wasn't my natural thought process. I had to recondition myself to think in that sort of way, that systematic way, but I did. And that's the other thing too. It's like, can you learn it? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Just because it's not natural to you doesn't mean it's impossible to learn. You just have to put in a little more effort. That's all. And so that's what I did. So I learned the systematic thinking on that side. But once I discovered part of my journey, and I owned, I am actually intuitive, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I had to own that. Well, let me train that. So it's not just for me, just random. How can I train it actually so I can I know how to drop in the intuitive and then blend it, and then I blend it. So I use both. Here's my idea. Okay, now let me test it out. Do. Here's the
Yeah.
idea. Okay, let me test it out. Do. You use both. We go back and forth all the time. So
Yeah.
it really is about a balance. And so that is how I apply it, and that's how I apply it with data science as well. So, keeping it within it gets the context here, right? Obviously, I apply it beyond that, but
Yeah.
the martial arts helps with the discipline of just the discipline of being of the martial arts that I practice and do. The physical side alone, but it really has helped hone in when I understand the principles and what's going on in there to really just bring that into balance. And then the breath coach, the breath side, that's the part of regulating my body, my system, and to stay calm, to be able to stay focused or what have you I need in the moment as I deal with all that. So really, for me, everything is one. I
Mm.
don't actually compartmentalize things. So all those things, my job, it's all part of the one. And then within that oneness, I just flow. I have different aspects I'm working on at a time,
Yeah.
but it's all for me a oneness. So I don't make that distinction
Mm.
of separation of, well, this is left and this is right. I mean, I do understand it from a physiological standpoint. I can talk about it, but I don't give more weight. That's a better way to put it. I don't put more weight on the right versus left. I see it as functions and let me flow and blend those functions together in all aspects of my life and in this context in
Mm.
work.
That is rich. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you letting us go there in the question, and clearly you've put a good deal of thought and concentration into thinking about this and sharing that with me and with our audience, Barron. So thank
Oh,
you.
oh, you're welcome. I've shared this before, right? So this is something that, as I said, that aspect of that part of my life is an integral part. And so I've been the privilege on a couple other podcasts where I talk more about that side, not the fundraising side, right? And so, yeah, that is my passion, and that's one of the things actually I want to get out there for all people here. It doesn't matter to understand that if you're more naturally inclined on the logical side, which is great, it's okay to learn and accept our intuitive right brain because we all have it. So let's accept it and let's be whole as human beings because that's what makes us whole.
Totally. Yes. I wonder, as I listen to you now and think about the next question, I have to imagine that the balance of the logical, the intuitive sides really can benefit you in your working relationships, which is our fourth question here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in general, Barron, how have you seen gift officers, MGOs, development directors adapt to the implementation of data science and analytics tools to advance fundraising objectives? And so, for example, what's worked well in your communication, your training style of those colleagues to help them become more willing, maybe more eager to see the benefit in the application of artificial intelligence, data analytics, and so forth into the advancement toolkit?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we need to make sure we address, which would be the elephant in the room, is that different generations, from my experience, I'll put that context, have different tolerance levels, I should say, of adopting these things, right?
Yeah.
And when we get into the younger generations, it's easier. When you get to older generations, um, one might need to work a little bit more. It can still be done. Let me be clear. There's no judgment on that, but there is that practical reality where the generations that grew up with data and AI, more and more so, it's just an integral part of their lives. So it's not something new versus a generation that didn't. So it's like, okay, how do I incorporate this thing that I didn't normally have to, so now I need to, right? So you gotta be mindful of that, right? And working in that dynamic. So it's part of answering that question, and that actually goes to um, how I then approach it. So I understand that, right? So
Right.
you approach it with zero judgment. And so I'll talk a little bit about how I work with people to answer the question, right? So it's kind of indirect way, direct way to answer the question, but I think that's um, the better way to approach it. So when I was younger in my 20s, most people who meet me now don't realize I'm a type A personality. Like, you're a type A personality? Oh gosh, yeah, type A personality. If you knew me in my 20s and early 30s, you're like, yeah, he's a type A personality. And a mentor of mine said something to me. I won't go into specific situation, but I was doing something, working on a project, and I wasn't paying attention to people around me. I was just, trying to make it happen. And the person pulled me aside. My mentor was like, "Do you not notice the impact of what you're doing on the people around you?" Like, oh, I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done. And this person also was a type A person as well, but he's much older and mature, so he learned more. And he said, "Barron, people are more important than your agenda." That was one of the most profound things I've ever heard in my entire life that has carried me to this day. Because what I learned, even as a type A personality, is that if you get people on board, your agenda gets done 10 times faster. So if I have the mentality, even as a type A personality, it's like, oh, no. If I focus on the people first, even then the agenda will ultimately be done. So then you're learning how to work with people, right? So then it's learning how to work with people. I've been fortunate to have that training. I talked about the consulting side, all that stuff, that training. So I do have that training. And I'm also, I am a trained communicator, not just that, but I have the coursework and all that as well. So I'm a trained communicator. So I guess I give that caveat, right? So,
Sure.
and so what I do to help with all NGOs is that I approach it by understanding that they're human beings. Now, I say that people's like, oh, of course, we all think they're human beings. Well, there's one thing to intellectually acknowledge someone's a human being, and it's another thing to do the work that's related to treating them like a human being. Especially in the moment when we're talking about work. This applies outside of work, but we'll just keep it in the context of work, right? So you come into work, we've got things we got to get done, they got things they got to get done, right? And you're just working through it, and you're both working from your top level, masks and productivity and all things to get the agenda, and then we work around, how come they aren't buying in? Right? That's a common theme.
Totally.
It takes a little extra work to say, okay, no, let me take a step back. And I'm going to treat them like a human being. Not about, here's my agenda that I need to get done. So how do I do that? Well, another mentor taught me when I was in my 20s. It's like, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So combine those two together, right? People are more important than the agenda. People don't care how much you know until you know how much you care. Okay, then I got to put in the work to be able to make that a reality. So it starts with me being my authentic self. Now, that's another conversation beyond about how do you be authentic while still keeping yourself safe, right? That doesn't mean you just be a pushover. That's none of that. But still, how you can be genuine, because you can tell the difference between someone who's being genuine with you and someone who's like, okay, I got my mask. All right, let's do this thing. You got your agenda. You know what I mean? You just know it. It's like, okay, great. I got my walls up. You got your walls up. You're trying to shove your agenda down my throat. Well, I don't know if I want you to do that. And all right, let's negotiate until we get to wherever we're happy with the medium, or maybe we don't. We go apart.
Right.
Okay.
Very common.
Very common. As opposed to, I know you have legitimate concerns. Let's talk about in the context of just the data science, right? That obviously goes beyond just like, okay, let's say someone who has hesitancies to want to use it. Okay, all right, great. What are your concerns? Just in general, what is it about data science or working with data that you question behind reason? And then accepting their answer, not trying to change it, not trying to challenge it, accepting their answer, meeting them where they're at, treating them like a human being. Oh, okay, great. Now that I hear that and I understand that, and this is where A, doing the work to know the business, B, doing the work to understand data science analytics. So you got to know both. So you can hear where they're at. Okay, now let me talk about how this can address within that. So you have a certain need that you need to, whatever it is, the goal you're trying to hit, which is why we're having this conversation. And you're having challenges and troubles doing it. So this is an alternative way to approach it, and this is how it can be approached, right? And we talk about it in terms and means, right, in simplest terms. I always tell people, when you're doing data science and analytics for a business organization, it's different from a tech firm. Tech firm is totally different. But when you're doing it in a business operation where your key stakeholders are non-data people, then it's a total different application. You're not trying to win a Kaggle competition. All right, so you're not trying to do the most fanciest thing so then I can go to a conference and brag about how fancy I am. I mean,
Right.
it's cool to do that. And I'm not knocking it. I've been to conferences. I've talked about things I've done, right? So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's not my point. The point is that what is the most effective way to accomplish this, even if it's not the most fanciest way to do it. That's the point of what I'm getting at here, right?
Yes.
And so then that's the approach, right? So you got to understand the business, understand that. Well, how? I mean, you got to get it. It's got to be as complex as it needs to be to accomplish the task, right? So what is that? So you need to understand it, understand that, and then you'd be able to then explain to the detail and layman's terms so that the stakeholder can understand. And then say, oh, let's test this out. So why don't we take an opportunity to just test it out, see how it works?
Great.
Right? And then see if that works for you. So it's treating them again like a human being. I'm not coming with my agenda. I'm not trying to make them do this or that. I am understanding their business need. I'm understanding their concerns with if they want to adopt this or not, this technology. Let me explain how I can meet that need, how I can work with you in a way that you're comfortable with, so that you still feel empowered and control in the work that you're doing, that this isn't taking over your job or anything along those lines, right? So that's when I talk about treat them like a human being. So that's how I get major gift officers or whoever I'm working with, or executives in this case. A lot of times I work more with the executive type individuals in the projects that I do now, to buy in. So that is the secret. And then of course it helps having a track record of success, but but for someone who doesn't know me, even within an organization, it's like, I don't know what I've done before. I still have to start all over again. Right? So that track record doesn't just mean you walk in the door and people say, oh, well, Barron's in the room, so we're going to do it now. That'd be nice. But that's not how it goes. You start that whole process all over again with this new individual.
Yes. Thank you for that answer, Barron. And as I was listening to you talk through your approach, I got the sense of the deeper investment of time and patience and applied understanding that you give to help your colleagues in those situations. Because yeah, we all have projects and deadlines, but to be able to be more effective, to have greater sustained collaboration, doing what you're describing takes more time and effort, but it has a bigger dividend in the long run. And so I'm glad you talked about that.
That's right. And best way to look at it, it takes more upfront time.
Yes.
But the secret is the back end time speeds up.
Yeah.
People are more important than your agenda. You take care of the people, the agenda gets done faster. So it seems like it because there's a front end load, yes. But if you think about the whole scope of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, it actually shrinks it. Because once you eliminate the walls and the barriers on the human side, which is obviously the things that actually extends it, if we really think about it,
right.
you eliminate that, then it's like, okay, now we can just actually work through the actual work itself to accomplish the goal that we need to get done. People are important than our agenda. Yeah.
I think that's going to be so helpful for people in our audience to hear you articulate that. So thank you.
Yeah.
With our last question here, and the reason for my geeking out backdrop, we once were on an APRA subcommittee, I think during the pandemic, and you had the Mandalorian scene as a backdrop. And I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. Like this, another Star Wars fan. So we both are avid fans of the galaxy far, far away, and I would love to hear about a story or a character, a story arc character, maybe a movie or a series that particularly appeals to you and why that might be, please.
Sure. Well, I'll talk about my favorite movie, and then I'll talk a little bit more about my fandom. So my favorite movie is Empire Strikes Back, and it's sentimental because I was 4 years old and I saw it in the theaters, right? And I remember my dad taking me there, and I was too young to see Star Wars in the theaters. I was one, but I had seen it, right? And then I saw that in the theater, and I still remember it. I still remember that experience. I could put myself there. And then the emotionality. Sorry, spoiler alerts. If you don't know at this point, after these amount of years, that Vader is Luke's father, then I don't know what to say. But at the time, obviously we did it. And
Yes.
so the shock and awe and just that whole reveal and just like what's gonna happen with Han Solo? He's a carbonite. And I mean it was just there was just so much there that that movie was just is just in my brain is just a favorite of all time
Love it.
of it. And so as part of my fandom now, I'm currently a member of the 501st Legion. And for those who aren't familiar, that is the Lucasfilm approved cosplay trooping groups that basically you need movie quality costume and literally movie quality to the detail. And I mean detail to the color of your bolt level detail that like the casual person walking up wouldn't even look at and see. It's like, well, I didn't even notice that. No, that needs to be done
Yeah.
to be approved. And unfortunately, I am an actual stormtrooper.
Awesome.
TK59632 or TK. So that means I'm a New Hope. That's TK is reference to the stormtrooper from the New Hope movie series.
Cool.
And so I do cosplay. And so my actual favorite recent up-to-date thing was that, and I'll briefly show my, to verify that I am there. Here's my helmet.
That is beautiful.
The screen can only show so much. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh, that's beautiful,
So
Barron.
yeah, there's my helmet. So to make sure that I am legit. I'm not just making it up. That Weird Al Yankovic. So you're a Gen Xer, so you
Yeah.
appreciate Weird Al Yankovic. Growing up, you're at Weird Al Yankovic. So when he travels and does his touring for one of his songs, he always asks the local 501st Legion battalion to, if they have stormtroopers and a Vader and a droid, that they could have as part of the show to be on stage with him.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. And so, because that's the thing, because we're the Lucasfilm, we are the ones, like if you go to those sanctioned events, we are the ones who are there. That's where when I say I'm a stormtrooper, I am a stormtrooper. It's not just like I want to be, I am a legit stormtrooper.
Yeah.
And so, this past summer he was touring and I got to be one of those stormtroopers on stage dancing and performing behind Weird Al Yankovic in front of, I don't know, 10,000 people, right?
My goodness.
And that was, I mean, that's the highlight. If you would have told this Gen Xer who grew up as a kid with Weird Al Yankovic that I would one day be on the stage with Weird Al Yankovic, come on now. No, but I did. So that's my highlight. So Empire Strikes Back as a movie, and then the opportunity to be on stage, busting out the Running Man in a stormtrooper costume, which wasn't easy, by the way. Behind,
Imagine, yes.
yeah. No, that wasn't required. I did that. We had some freestyles. Like I'm going to bust out the Running Man because why not? And
That is so awesome, Barron.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you're the first person I know in real life that is part of the 501st. So that is really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that too. That's a highlight of this interview.
Yeah. You're
And
welcome.
I don't know much about the 501st, but I feel like are the local units sometimes involved in charitable work as well? Like they go to hospitals and such?
That's exactly it. Yeah, we're a charitable organization. Everything that we do is to raise money for a charity. So,
Okay.
I mean, I should say the majority of the stuff. We're not raising money for charity while I'm on stage with Weird Al Yankovic, but
Right.
but yes, exactly it. We go to hospitals. We do charitable things. Even when we are at Comic Cons or cons, when we have our stations and booths, it's to raise money for charity, and we have auctions, whatever it is, so people can donate for certain causes. So yes, that's exactly it. It's not just, hey, a bunch of people like to hang out because they like wearing Star Wars stuff, but it's a international charitable organization that we do that for.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that part as well. I knew a little bit about it, but it's so beneficial to how you explain that more.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. And it's fun. And it's a fun way to nerd out and geek out.
Totally.
So I always tell people, fly your, yeah, I turn, well, you already said the date of the recording this, so I turn 50 next week. And I always tell people, fly your flag. Be you. It doesn't matter that I'm 50 years old and I'm a geek, a nerd.
Yeah,
No shame in my game, so just do your thing and be comfortable with who you are. Yeah.
absolutely. Well put. Thank you. And happy early birthday, Barron.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
The 50s is quite a ride, and I hope it's a great new chapter for you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. And on that note, I am really looking forward to sharing Barron Cato's conversation in People and Fundraising with our audience Monday, May the 4th, 2026. You'll be able to find Barron's interview on the platforms that you've been accustomed to finding previous recordings, LinkedIn with the YouTube portion, Podbean for the audio only, and thanks to my 100th guest, Luis Diaz of WISE and the Donor Participation Project for his sponsorship. Barron's interview will be on my website, peopleinfundraising.wordifysites.com. Barron, thank you so much for your time. This has been so enjoyable. One of my favorite interviews of the 200 so far.
Uh, this is great. I've been enjoying it as well, Tim. I'm so grateful that you invited me on. I always love geeking out with fellow Star Wars fans and fellow Apple board members, current or
Yes.
past. Yep.
Awesome. And I hope if you'll be at PD in Chicago, I hope to see you there.
Yeah, not this year, but I hope to get back at some point. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, have a great rest of your day. And thank you, Barron, so much for a great conversation.
You as well, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you.